What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 745 of the Smark Out Moment Smack Talk Hot Tags Edition podcast of the week. I'm Tony Mango, as always joined by Callum Wiggins.
Hello.
And of course, we always want to know what you guys have to say, so drop your thoughts in the comments section below as we go along and we talk about everything that happened in the world of pro wrestling over the past few days on the news side of things, the TV recap, the rumors, all the stuff that's beyond whatever the main event is on any particular week. Now, of course, we already did talk about the AEW Revolution pay-per-view predictions and all that, so go back and check out the pay-per-view point episode that we had done prior to this. That's our main event podcast for earlier on this week. We're going to have some updates to the Revolution card. A couple more matches were added on Dynamite, and we got some more information going forward for somebody else that's in the Battle Royal that's happening and stuff too, so ready to get into all that stuff. We're also just want to remind you about the Smark Madness tournament that's happening right now. Who is the greatest rival of AJ Styles' career? And if you want to vote on the best rival, enemy, opponent, whatever you want to call it, arch enemy, something or other, of the phenomenal one, then now you can do that on round 2. Round 1 ended on Tuesday, so we're going to make this every Tuesday or so, unless I forget or something, but to be perfectly honest. So vote while you can. We got the Elite 8, I think, is what's going on right now, so we're rolling along here. That tournament's going to wrap up at the beginning of April, and we'll figure out who the greatest rival of AJ Styles is. Keep in mind, too, that if you want to chime in with your thoughts on different types of platforms, obviously, if you're on Spotify or something like that, leave a comment. But if you are on our Discord channel, that's another way for you to just hop onto that server and have some fun. We got some separate little channel sections of that for different categories, WWE, AEW, even a movie and TV thing and stuff. You want to just chit chat, so hop on over there. If you are on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe, and ring your notification bell. Get your email alerts set up for the post shows, which go immediately after the pay-per-views. Could be 5-10 minutes afterward, and you never really know. So you get the email alert set up for that, and that way you know exactly when I am live on that. And if you are interested in helping grow this channel, hit the share button or the hype button or whatever it might be, and help support us on the monetary side of things too. If you got $1 a month you can spare or something, it's greatly appreciated. The join button is the best way to do that, same as the Patreon, but Darkcast tier and all that, it's all hidden behind those. So if you want more content and you want even more specific content and stuff, that's the best way to do that. Pick up some merchandise from Redbubble and TeePublic too if you're interested on anything on that front. And without further ado, let's just go ahead and start this round of the hot tags. So as per usual, we got some topics outside of the TV stuff that we're going to get into, and then we're going to roll along throughout the week of Raw, SmackDown, and so on and so forth like that. The outlier thing that I don't really know particularly where we would put it in anywhere else. Just one of those trademarks that is something to keep an eye on. Myka Lockwood, which MYKA, does not give me any necessary, like, this person strikes me as that's probably who that is. But it could be any number of people. They just signed a few more people that are going to be a part of the ID or NIL or Performance Center or whatever the recruitment side of things is. It's all confusing these days, but they had signed... I don't know for sure if they've signed Nikki Blackheart. I've been seeing a lot about that name, but I don't know if that's like confirmed that she's signed to them. Allin Akison, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's got one of those little, I don't remember the name with the little symbol above the A. I never know how those things are pronounced. I'm an ignorant American. Delia Schweizer, Rain Leet, who looks very much straight out of the 80s, and that seems kind of cool. And Ahmed Assam, or some other names. So maybe it could be one of those people. Maybe it's somebody else. Maybe somebody's getting a repackaging or something. I don't know. But a name's in a name. We usually don't have much to say about it unless it stands out. It's very crazy. So stay tuned for Myka Lockwood, whoever that is. And that could be any number of people. We're actually going to talk quite a bit about Evolve on this episode, which that's normally not the case. But another outsider thing to talk about here. AAA has their latest, I don't want to call it a pay-per-view. It's not a premium live event. It's not a pay-per-view. It's kind of a combination of a pay-per-view and a TV show combination 3-week thing. Rey de Reyes is happening this weekend. It's going to go down on Saturday night at, I believe it's 10 o'clock Eastern. And they're going to record, if I remember correctly with the way that this was supposed to be set up, they're going to record 3 weeks worth of it on that night. But they're going to only air potentially 3 matches, I think, are like set for this first week, March 14th episode. And then the other ones are just going to follow suit down the line. But AAA is something that we're kind of, Alm's not watching WWE proper as it is, like the Raw and SmackDown and everything. And I'm doing tangential coverage of AAA and stuff. So it's not something that we could be like, well, in the grand history of AAA, we know that this is the track record of a Rey de Reyes thing or something. But quick predictions. And a quick rundown of that card for anybody that is interested. There's a 4-way for the Cruiserweight title. Laredo Kid, Dragon Lee, TJP, and Jack Cartwheel. Fun scenario. Pagano and Psycho Clown are defending the tag team titles against the War Raiders. So that's what they've been up to. If anybody's been curious what Eric and Ivar have been doing since they haven't been on Raw. Flammer, I still don't remember how to pronounce that correctly. Sorry. Is in an open challenge for the Reina de Reyes championship. So we don't know who she's up against. And, it's hard to predict who will win when you don't even know who's in the match. La Parca, El Grande Americano, the original El Grande Americano, and Santos Escobar are in a 4-way for that Rey de Reyes tournament final. Whatever that becomes the number 1 contender to the AAA Mega Championship, who is going to be either Dominic Mysterio or El Hijo del Vikingo. The stipulation for that being no DQ match, and if Mysterio wins, Vikingo is done challenging for the belt as long as Mysterio is champion, but if Vikingo wins, then Mysterio not only loses the title, but he has to leave AAA just outright. All that stuff in mind. Honestly, I've been enjoying these AAA shows, the little bits and pieces that I've been checking out. They're like low stakes in the sense of I'm not as invested into it as I am with like Raw and SmackDown and all, but they're, they have fun in ring action and all. And some of the characters are bright and colorful enough and interesting enough in a different way of just like something off the beaten track for me to be like, all right, I don't have to be like treating this as seriously. And then I could just watch that cartwheel flip around a little bit and do some cartwheels and whatever. And I don't know. I'll be watching it. I'll be doing coverage. So check that out. I know you have like no investment in AAA, but do you have any thoughts on this whole setup, Callum?
Not particularly. I would point out that only like 3 of those matches are taking place on this show. That the Pagano and Psycho Clown vs War Raiders is announced for next week. Right.
And then the Cruiserweight title is supposed to be one of those nights, but they haven't really announced when it is yet. But I guess they're recording all of it tonight, and then they're just gonna, or not tonight, tomorrow night, and then just releasing those like as typical episodes. But they're still classifying them all as Rey de Reyes. Like week 1 is what they're calling the one that's happening tomorrow.
So, I mean, I think that the idea of Mysterio having to leave AAA is just crazy for them because Mysterio seems to be the most over guy in AAA. So kicking him out of it to just give Vikingo, who is very, very, like, he's a heel now, but he's very unpopular still, makes it feel like, okay, that's a bit of a, like, that he's got far less to lose because he can just wait until Mysterio drops it to another person and then he can challenge for the title again. So I think that means that Mysterio should probably retain, especially now that he's no longer Intercontinental Champion, doesn't have to worry about that as much. And because most of the people that are in the 4-way match are WWE guys, realistically, one of those could win and then challenge Mysterio at WrestleMania for the title if they wanted to go down that route.
Yeah, it's hard to tell where they want to take the next step because as far as I'm aware, and I can be completely unaware of it, They haven't announced like the next big AAA show is blank, and then it's maybe something that like if I go back to like 2015 and their list of their pay-per-views or something like that, then maybe there's a sort of like pattern that they do. I remember looking before and I was being confused because it was just like, all right, well, there's multiple Triple Manias, and that already threw me off. But it looks like based off of 2025, 2024, they'll throw a Triple Mania out there almost seemingly at random. There's the Worlds Collide that they had done in June of last year, so maybe June will be the next one of these main shows or something. But the idea of like setting up something for WrestleMania weekend, we talked about this a little bit before when they had moved Stand and Deliver. They could very easily throw a AAA show somewhere in there. And it could just be a regular taping too, like it's just a regular episode of the TV show. But I'm firmly in the camp of Dom can't leave. He's way too popular. And more than anybody that they've set up for this Rey de Reyes number one contender spot is the Ludwig Kaiser version of El Grande Americano. And he's over as fuck there. It's got to be Dom versus him going forward. And Vikingo, this must just be the last time that, if he loses, he doesn't challenge for the belt as long as Dom's champion again. If Dom loses it to El Grande Americano anytime soon, then Vikingo immediately just is back into the title hunt, I think it could be as simple as that.
Or essentially, but like Dom is treated as a babyface in AAA, especially during this feud with Vikingo. So would they want to put him up with another babyface in the the non-original El Grande Americano? So like, would they make more sense to actually pair him with even though it's technically his friend in WWE, the original El Grande Americano who's a heel, to make Dominic look even more of a babyface? So I don't know whether they would pair the people that are either, weirdly are heels in WWE but are treated as babyfaces in AAA, putting them like on the same side as each other.
Yeah, that heel face dynamic is wild over there. Nothing translates the same as what it is on Raw. So it's all over the place. Every time original El Grande Americano comes out in AAA, it's like, wow, you bastard. And then he comes out on Raw and he's supposed to be a bit, well, even that, this week it was really weird. We'll talk about that when we get to, we might as well just talk about Monday Night Raw already. There's a portion of the show where Penta was supposed to be defending the Intercontinental title, the men's Intercontinental title, I should say, obviously, against Chad Gable. And funny enough, like, a lot of people are really kind of like flip-flopping around when it comes to this. There's a segment where Danhausen approaches original El Grande Americano. And since he is not interested in teaming up with him and not like wants to part in him and all, he curses him. And then right afterward, Ryo and Bravo are just like sneaking behind him, very like, I don't know, the Rocky and Bullwinkle style or something. Clearly they attack him. Then the other El Grande Americano comes out and he has the match instead. And I've been seeing a lot of people being like, well, why would he be such a jerk to Danhausen? Why would Danhausen curse a babyface? But well, if he's not a babyface and it's whatever and all that. To me, it all circles back to, I don't think that they really care necessarily. I think that they are looking at this as like, it's all fluid. It's all just moving around. And I am very, very firmly in the direction. I'm expecting a multi-man at WrestleMania. It's Penta, the Americanos, Dom, and Finn, I think. Maybe somebody else gets in there, but I would have thought that it would have been Javon, and the direction this week hinted at anything else of Javon doing something with Kofi. He had a little backstage thing where Kofi Kingston was like, I see a lot of you in me, and like I can steer you in the right direction for your career and all that. He even told Grayson Waller to beat it and let them just talk about it on their own. So I'm getting a little bit worried that Javon is not necessarily factored into the WrestleMania plans, but the IC title is definitely going to involve more than one person because Dom is still trying to go for it. And in the process, he's kicked out Finn Balor from the Judgment Day, which now that means that in the order of when they were a part of this faction, Edge starts the group with Damian Priest. And then they recruit Rhea. And then they recruit Finn. And then Dom. Edge gets taken out first. Damian Priest gets taken out next. Rhea gets taken out next. And then the one outlier is Carlito has left the group before Finn. But it's, 4 out of 5 is a pretty good statistic of you join the Judgment Day and you're going to leave in that kind of order too. It's been a long time coming. And I think it's the right decision. Finn Balor being out of that group now.
Well, yeah, I could say that it's probably the right decision. It's probably come a year too late. Because it just, like, this Judgment Day stuff, in the same way with Triple H often books these factions, just moves like treacle from like year to year. They just feel like it feels like, again, I don't watch as regularly, but even when I was watching more often, it just felt like every week the Judgment Day or the Bloodline were always like on the brink of imploding, and then the next week either they're fine or they do something to come back together, and then 2 weeks later they're back to being at each other's throats, and it's just a cycle that continues. So yeah, it makes sense that he gets kicked out now. It means that he can have a match. I mean, the likelihood is that, as you say, they'll probably get added into a big multi-man match for the Intercontinental Championship, but it also means that you could potentially, if you wanted to, pivot to just a straightforward Finn versus Dom one-on-one match. Or, yeah, as I say, because it seems like, for the way that it's structured, JD has sided with Dom staying in the Judgment Day. The Judgment Day is now woman heavy, actually, because now there's more women in the Judgment Day now than men.
Yeah, it's the
dynamics
obviously
isn't there at the moment because of her injury, but yeah.
Supposedly she might be doing a little bit better on that. There was a picture that she had posted about her like in the gym, so that might be a good sign that maybe she'll be back by WrestleMania or so. Yeah, the Judgment Day starting off as an Edge thing with Priest. It's like it's now. It's Liv and Dom. And I kind of picture like, it's clearly not like a 1-to-1 with the NWO. But when I look at the NWO and I look at, it starts off Hall and Nash, and then it's got, Hogan gets brought in as the third man. And then you start adding every single person on the roster for the most part, where it really didn't make any sense. Like, really past those first 3, most of them didn't make any sense when you're throwing in like Ted DiBiase and whatever. But it's almost as if it would have been just like 3 years later or so that the entire NWO would be led by like Scott Steiner and stuff, and you're like, all right, certain things head in a certain direction. And I love some of the stuff that they do, but I think basically in the grand scheme of things, if they would have ended Finn Balor being a part of the Judgment Day last year, we'd be in the same position as we are now. They probably could have done it 12 months ago.
Well, they're feeding into it now, because I presume, if this was, not to me again, I don't know how slowly they want to roll this, but I think based on what happened in the Gauntlet match on the show, not to skip too far ahead, but there seemed to be, again, more miscommunication and issues between Liv Morgan and Raquel.
Mm-hmm.
So what I presume is going to happen, again, don't quote me on this because I'm not watching, and again, it depends how quick this could happen by SummerSlam, or it could happen by SummerSlam next year, considering how slow they move with these things. But I think it will lead into some sort of Nick's tag situation where it's Finn and Raquel on one side and Liv and Dom on the other for a little while, or the other way around. But I think I don't know necessarily what their plans are for it. But if the likelihood is that Liv wins the title at WrestleMania, which feels more and more apparent that that's the route they're going to go with, then Raquel is an obvious first challenger in terms of, okay, or if not first challenger, then at least down the road challenger. And if you continue to have Finn and Dom feuding post WrestleMania, then you can just slot them in, have one pay-per-view dedicated to a mixed tag match before you then do title match either on the following pay-per-view or on an episode of Raw or Saturday Night's Main Event or something.
Somewhere there's going to be an implosion. And at least when it came to this segment on Raw, all four of them were totally down to just beat up on Finn Balor. So Raquel is firmly in the pro Liv Morgan camp, despite having her little issues here and there with her. But they did bother to do a thing of Liv Morgan was out there with Raquel, and if anybody's curious about how the gauntlet went down, it was a number one contenders gauntlet for the women's IC title, number one contender spot. Lyra starts off with Io, and Io beats Lyra. Raquel comes out, gets beaten by Io, and by proxy of like Stephanie Vaquer coming out there and fighting with Liv. So Raquel could very easily have just been like, if you weren't there, it wouldn't have been a distraction and everything. But they kind of breezed by it, and then she was just, joining down on the beatdown of Finn Balor later on. Io then lost to Ivy Nile because Raquel beat down Io afterward. I was very surprised about Ivy Nile getting a pin out of this. Ivy then, of course, gets eliminated by Bayley, and then Asuka gets eliminated by Bayley. So Bayley is having a match next week against AJ Lee, and there was a hint of a little bit of tension between Bayley and Lyra Valkyria as well, so that group might not necessarily be living much past WrestleMania as well. And then whenever Roxanne comes back, I keep pitching that Roxanne would probably be somebody who they should put that IC title on, and the Roxanne and AJ Lee story just makes perfect sense to me. So does Roxanne come back and she supports Finn Balor? She's been kind of very pro Finn Balor in other scenarios. Or does Raquel and Roxanne go for the tag titles, or do they, it could be any sorts of number of things. I don't think WWE necessarily knows where they're going in some of these scenarios, but it does seem like if Dom is continuing to try to go for the IC title and Finn's feuding with him and Penta's got the belt and he's doing stuff with both of the Americanos, I feel like it's a fatal five-way.
Yeah, unless they decide to toss Danhausen in because he's been cursing people that are involved in this feud.
It could be that's how he gets in there too.
It does feel like a very WWE thing to do, just based on the circumstances of they've had guys like Zack Ryder and win the title out of nowhere. It does feel like a very WWE coded thing to have Danhausen win the Intercontinental title through some fluky way at WrestleMania. I
would not put it past them. Absolutely would not. Because they would be like, well, he's hot right now. People did a 180. And it may be the fastest 180 that I've ever seen of just, wow, everybody hates this debut. And then the next segment, everybody's like, all right, I'm down for it. And I'll admit, as much as I don't like the Danhausen shtick in like an aesthetic sense, he's gotten over. The crowd's into it, so maybe sometimes you strike while the iron's hot, and it's not the direction that I would go personally, but it would not shock me if Danhausen were to at least be in the title match, if not potentially get a fluke thing like you're saying. It sucks for Evans if he's not involved in that, but I don't think that they have a plan for a lot of the matches that are happening on the card. For instance, the Brock Lesnar thing, more reports coming out over this week that they might not want to book Obafemi against Brock Lesnar because Brock doesn't want to lose until his final match, which to me is like, get the fuck over it, and just, I would, if I had it my way, he would lose to Obafemi. And I don't know, it's kind of seeming a little bit more and more like this might end up just being that LA Knight thing. Obafemi beat Rusev for whatever that means. And some other things that happened on Raw. Adam Pearce had talked about Seth Rollins not being medically cleared. They had more people run in and do a big distraction thing. So we're dawdling, trying to figure out if Braun Breaker's going to be there or figure out some other way to pivot or whatever. But the Usos were upset about that and upset about the CM Punk thing with the Sika remark. I liked that segment for the most part for the end of the night. Did you check that out by any chance?
Yes, I did, and I think Punk. As much as, there is a part of me that's the pro AEW mindset just wants to not dislike everything that he does, but just try and put a little bit of a glass half empty approach to it. He's doing excellent work, and he is making things feel a lot more real and grounded in everything that he does. He's been an excellent champion so far. And I think this segment was good as well because he is leaning into stuff that is somewhat truthful in that Roman Reigns has never once uttered the words "I'm sorry" to Jimmy and Jey Uso. He has said things like he's acknowledged people, and like I saw someone on Twitter talking about how it's like, oh, this is just how families apologize to each other. They don't actually say "I'm sorry." They just say, "Oh yeah, bud, like that thing happened, but we're cool, right?" And all this other
you want to grab some dinner?
yeah, you do everything except utter that 5-letter word that is just too strong of a word for people to say. But and they took exception to it. It is quite interesting though because it is just based on that segment. And again, it's just one town and one audience, but it did get a very negative reaction to the Usos. It was supposed to be a babyface tag team, but they're leaning more into this shades of grey thing for this particular story because there's no real. It's just two guys that hate each other. There's no real babyface heel you can cheer and boo whoever you want to. So I don't really mind that the Usos are kind of taking the family side of things, and so it's blurring the lines in the middle. There's a lot of that going around in WWE in general. I wonder if that's just because you look at like the Cody, Sammy stuff on SmackDown as well. Mm-hmm. Like it does seem like they're now leaning into, okay, maybe we don't need strict heel and some characters we do need strict heel and baby faces, but in the main event title scene, we're going to try and mix it up a little bit and just let the audience decide who they want to root for based on what they're seeing. There's no like definitive, this guy's the good guy, this guy's the bad guy. It's like, oh, this guy I like, but he's saying some bad things, and then this guy I also like is also saying some things that I don't quite agree with. But this guy I don't like, he's saying some things that make a bit of sense actually. So you're just trying to. It's an effective route of doing things, I believe.
Yeah, I mean the best case scenario in a good guy versus good guy feud is that you give them both some kind of plausible deniability of their negative actions, and then also that they have to confront their negative actions, and then that they have positives that they can retort with the other person. So that way it's like, I always use my analogies for my like superhero stuff because I'm, a fucking dork. But like, when Captain America Civil War comes out, or the Marvel Civil War comic or whatever, are you Team Cap or are you Team Iron Man? You can argue, Iron Man's got some good ideas about like Nitro blows up a bunch of people. You should have some kind of regulation for that. And then you have, but that's not the right way to do it. And you do it this way. And then this is overreaching. And then, you can have, if you're Batman and Superman, they argue all the time and they're both right and they're both wrong. And when it comes to Punk and Roman Reigns, they're both jerks, but they're both baby faces. So they need to be jerks to each other and to potentially some other people here and there by proxy. And the Usos make sense to be like, this isn't about Roman. We're upset about what you said about our uncle. And as friends, or as much as you can call friends in that scenario, we want you to apologize to us. And then Punk being like, nah, fuck your cousin though. It's like, I like it. It's a good dynamic of like you said, like he's not saying things that aren't true, and it positions Roman as having to own up to his negatives, and it puts Punk in a spot where he's not completely squeaky clean either. I like that way better than if it would have just been, I'm the best in the world. No, you're not. I am.
I'll say, I think that Punk, for all his shortcomings, which there are, well, as a person, let's put it that way, and the stuff that happened in AEW, I think that ever since he's come back to wrestling, including a lot of stuff that he did in AEW, he's been like really, really good. And it's clear that he has a different perspective on wrestling than a lot of modern people, which is not necessarily saying that one side is wrong and one side is right, but it's a mindset that's a bit more old school, which is benefiting in terms of just being a slight contrast to the more modern style of things. So, yeah, as I say, I don't think that he's really, outside of the McIntyre feud, which ended well, but was for most part dealt with over a charm bracelet, I don't think he's really put a foot wrong in since, especially in the last year or so in WWE.
It's way more interesting right now. Even as somebody who, like, I have to both eat a little bit of crow and at the same time give myself a little bit of credit for the future of this potentially changing. I had said before, like, I'm overall not as much interested in the idea of the CM Punk and Roman Reigns feud, and I had thought that I would really rather them go in a completely different direction than to repeat what they did last year, but it's been a good story so far, and I have to admit, I've been enjoying these promos. So as much as the Cody Rhodes and Randy Orton match is something that, like, on paper makes a little bit more sense to me, they got to do some heavy lifting tonight with the contract signing, because that hasn't won people over in the same way. And it's starting to become very clear that that's like the night one main event. So I want to see them, light a fire on that contract signing. Contract signings are not exactly the most thrilling thing that they could possibly do. So a little bit hesitant about that. But
it can't go. We can only go quite as bad as the as a press conference segment can go.
We're going to talk about that. That's for sure. First things first, though, let's go into the NXT side of things. It's that week, it was Tuesday instead of Wednesday, and quite a bit happening in the NXT front right now. Very quick rundown of some of the things that happened on the show itself. Tatum Paxley opened up with a promo where Izzy Dame attacked her. They are going to fight again for the future in a steel cage match for the NXT Women's North American Championship. Ethan Page and Ricky Saints are having a lot of fun together. I like that duo. And they had their main event match on this episode where they beat Joe Hendry and Miles Bourne, setting them up for a potential rematch of some sort in the future. It's like a little bit foggy because Page pinned Hendry. So does he get a shot against Hendry? Does he get another shot against Miles Bourne? They were kind of like having a back and forth there. So pay attention when that comes. Eli Knight and Super Sean Legacy both pinned Jasper Troy. And then that was supposed to be for a WWE Speed title shot, which turned into instead Eli Knight and Sean Legacy being a part of a tag team tournament. So I'm going to put a pin in that thing a little bit. Shiloh Hill was messing around with Izzy Dame's car, messed up everybody else's cars and stuff. And one of the other tag teams that's in the tournament, which seems like it's a 4-team tournament now because OTM and Dark State were also supposed to be a part of it, but they were taken out of it immediately by brawling backstage, are Hank and Tank and Birthright. And Birthright now does have Charlie Dempsey in their ranks. Lexus King and Uriah Connors won a tag team match against Charlie Dempsey and Tavion Heights, part of the No Quarter Catch Crew, like temporary reunion one night thing. And as expected, Dempsey turned on Tavion, and William Regal and Fit Finlay had came out and was a part of this whole thing. There's at least some chatter that they might be regulars going forward as part of this group, which I think is a great idea because people love them some Legends appearances, and Regal is a great mentor talker type that can be like steering these people in the right direction. Finlay can maybe be doing something about like, you got to be tougher and like, let's kind of, I'll pass the shillelagh on to Uriah Connors, and especially not since David Finlay's not a part of it anymore. And I think it's the right call. Charlie Dempsey absolutely should be a part of this group.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if the whole semblance of the group is most of the people in it are second generation superstars apart from the one that isn't. So then yeah, it makes sense to put a guy like Charlie Dempsey in it who is better as a heel and like has his father working at the company. So it totally makes sense for that to be part of the group. The only thing is, it's just so dumb that it's a group called Birthright, which is based around the fact that second generation superstars, and they all have different names and surnames than their fathers. And that's just it's just the stupid thing about what they decide to do, that you have to rename everyone that comes through. Because it just feels like you have to be an insult. You have to know that that's the case. It's not clearly obvious. and they can explain, oh, like, I am the son of Fit Finlay, but my name is Uriah Connors. Oh, why are you called Uriah Connors? Well, let me explain. I can't really have the name. So you have to go round the houses to just explain something which is just clearly obvious. Why aren't you just called Brogan Finlay? Why aren't you just called Charlie Regal? Why aren't you called Ariana Morella? Or whatever route you want to go down. It's... Yeah, as I say, I think Birthright only works. It works the concept with the people involved, just generally, but it only really works if they have their parents' surnames. Because otherwise, it's just a group of people that if you're in the know, you know that they're second generation superstars, but there's nothing obviously they're telling you. It's just a really, it's a really weird thing that you've purposely separated them from their lineage, and now you're building a faction based around their lineage.
It's really stupid. And yeah, it all does boil down to them wanting to own the trademarks, but it's like, can't you own the trademark while you have the person and work out that deal the way that they've done with other things? Like, or
just change their first name.
Or do something like that, yeah. Like, you can...
And also, like, William Regal's name is not William Regal. His name is...
Right, it's Matthews, right?
Yeah, his name is Stephen Matthews.
And so it's like... what's Charlie Dempsey is like Darren Matthews?
Sorry. Yeah, I think William Regal's name is actually Darren. I can't remember what Charlie.
Oh wait, yeah. So William Regal is Darren Matthews, and then Charlie is what would Charlie Dempsey's be? It's not Charles. Bailey Matthews is his name.
Yeah. So you could call him Bailey Regal. You can call him Charlie Regal, or Billy Regal, anything along those lines.
Or shit, and Matthew Regal.
Yeah, exactly. And you own that name because, that's not his name. So you can trademark that term. And the best thing about that is that, even the worst thing is that, say for instance that they decided to let any of those guys go, and they go to AEW, they can call themselves Bailey Regal instead. And it's like, so now they able to benefit off their legacy that we weren't able to. It's like, well, you could have named them. Like Brian Pillman. I don't know if Brian Pillman's name was Brian Pillman. I assume it was, because it feels like a similar enough name. But and he is Brian Pillman Jr., so it makes sense.
Pretty sure he is Brian Pillman.
Yeah, and he is Brian Pillman Jr.
Brian Zachary Pillman, yeah.
Yeah. Morella definitely isn't. That's not his name. Santino Morella is not his actual name. So you could go with the Morella thing for Ariana if you really wanted to. I don't think... Finlay is his name. I'm pretty certain. So you'd have to go down that route. But then again, you just change the first name, you can still own the trademark. So, yeah, I don't understand why they have to feel so separate from the legacy behind them, because it's just a good way of tying in the history of their forebearers. It doesn't necessarily have to hold them back or mean that they have to live up to the legacy of who came before them, but it's more of a case of, there's just it means that they're kind of inbuilt into the business, and you have a bit more of an emotional connection if you watched or even knew of their fathers or mothers beforehand and what they were doing in the business. And if you don't, you don't, but it doesn't affect you one way or the other. It's only a positive thing, because it connects people that of a different era to these people immediately. So
and it's easy to correct right now too. Like, now's the best time to just be like, fuck it, because the whole thing of you don't want to make a career based off of your family name. You want to take a different name so that way you can earn it on your own. I get it. But when you do a faction that's based off of, I'm rejecting that concept and I'm embracing where I came from as the actual crux of the story, by that nature, you need to get rid of that part of your character. And it's the way that Martin Sheen is the father of Charlie Sheen and Emilio Estevez. And for a while as a kid, I was like, what do you mean they're related? The one's Emilio Estevez and the other one's Charlie Sheen. What are you fucking talking about? And then it's like, oh, okay, so he's using the real name and then they're using the stage name. and it's actually like Carlos Estevez instead of Charlie Sheen. Oh, okay, so you got a little bit of wiggle room or whatever, and they acknowledge that they're your family and whatever. So then Uriah Connors should come out, and they should do the thing that they did with the repackaging of Zack Ryder in them. Funny enough, Zack Ryder gets 3 names in WWE, but he originally was with Brian Myers as the Major brothers. They were Brett and Brian Major. And then when they joined the Edge group and they're the Edge heads, they just had a SmackDown segment. Pretty sure it was SmackDown. Yeah, it had to have been because that was 07 or so range. And he just says, like, I'm Zack Ryder now. And, like, my new name is not Brian Major. It's Kurt Hawkins. And at the time, it was weird because it's like, why are you renaming yourselves? And they didn't need to be renamed, but they didn't have the family thing going on. The family thing is so fucking easy right now. And it's such a softball for them to have a segment on this next episode of NXT where they're there in the ring. Regal and Finlay are there. Regal and Finlay can be like, our kids and the kids of others that we worked with are going to take over this next generation, this legacy 2.0, whatever however they want to constitute it, this birthright thing. They're embracing who they are now. And then Uriah Connors can be like, yeah, I'm not going to be Uriah Connors anymore. That's my stupid Chase U name. I'm Connor Finlay, or I'm Uriah Finlay, or whatever. I don't think that they would go Brogan Finlay because it's his real name, but Connor Finlay, let's go on that run. Lexus King can be like, the era of Lexus King is over. I'm Brian Pillman Jr. And like you said, Ariana Grace could be like, I'm Ariana Corelli, or they wouldn't go Corelli because her real name, Ariana Morella. Stax could be like, yo, I'm still Stax because my dad's not anybody that you know. But like, it's so easy. They need to do that. And Dempsey, there's nothing in the name of Charlie Dempsey to be like, you got to keep that though. Just make him Charlie Regal. Make him, Bailey Regal, whatever you want to call him. Pull the trigger and have it do that. It's going to be better for them in the long run. And then Brooks Jensen, meanwhile, is over there in Evolve just being like, hey guys, can I come too? I like this group though, and I hope that they steer them in the right direction for that. Other things that happen on NXT, I mentioned the Shiloh Hill stuff. Saw Rooker beats Lainey Reed. Lola Vice has now put it out there that she wants to go and fight for the NXT Women's Championship. So the stuff I had mentioned before about Vengeance Day and the idea of her maybe going for the Women's North American title, seemingly out of the mix. But it all depends on what happens next week. Next week's going to be the triple threat between Sol Ruca and Zarya and JC Jane, which I am very shocked is not happening at Stand and Deliver. So now I'm even more confused, but I am leaning more towards the idea JC just retains the women's title. And I think that they might put that on Lola. And then Sol Ruca and Zarya have some sort of gimmick match against each other.
Yeah, I mean that's a definitely potential route they could go down. I think that it does still feel like the triple threat is the right way to do it.
It should be. Realistically, it should be.
Because especially after the way that the Zarya and JC Jane match ended with Sol Ruca taking both of them out, it just feels like this is the clear match. Like Zarya and JC Jane clearly don't get on with each other. Zarya just turned on Sol Ruca to get ahead of her in the queue and get a title shot. So yeah, it feels like it must be a triple threat match. But yeah, that's like they could decide that we can just do 2 birds with 1 stone and have Lola Vice versus JC Jane and move Zarya and Sol Ruca into a grudge match, and that's 2 matches we can fill the card with. So yeah, there's clearly different routes they can go down for it. There must be a reason why they had Lola. Well, I say there must be a reason. I'm not necessarily saying she's going to win the title, but the reason why she won that match with Kalani Jordan, the previous show, is so she can move on and do something else off the back of that.
Mm-hmm.
So having a title shot. As I don't think it's hard because like it seemingly you can never expect that Lola Vice is going to win anything major because she never really does win anything major.
Yeah, they like putting her in the spot where they're like, you are going to win that belt at some point. And then she kind of goes like, well, what's that some point? And they're like, we'll figure it out.
I mean, she seems to be one of those tailor-made people that will move up to the main roster without winning a title in NXT. Like, and I think that would be fine because she seems to be someone that they've already used enough times, be it in like Royal Rumbles and other little bursts here and there. That's like, okay, just move her up to the main roster. She's fine enough. She can do stuff. She's got like a look and an entrance about her that people just get behind. So yeah, I don't know why they, again, but it's the case with everyone. I don't know why they just hold people in NXT for way longer than they necessarily need to.
Lola's in that spot where it's hard to tell. Like, she and Kalani and Sol Ruka, and then I guess you could throw Fallon Henley and JC Jane and a few other people necessarily in there, but I'll focus on those three right now. They are all like, at any point in time, if they decided they wanted them on Raw and SmackDown, they're fine. You could just move right up there. But sometimes they keep people in NXT a little bit longer, seemingly because they don't want to lose them in NXT more so than like that they actually have any plans for them in the main roster. And I kind of feel like the Lola Vice and Sol Ruka battle is which one of them did they want to put on the main roster and which one do they want to stay around. So at a point in time, I was like, oh, Sol Ruka is going to be the one that beats JC Jane. Now I'm thinking Sol Ruka is going up to the main roster after Mania. And I think that next week's match is, it's part of a group of different matches. It's not a special episode in the sense of like it being, Gold Rush or whatever it might be, but it's Booker T Appreciation Night in Houston. And it was a cute little segment. It seems like they didn't necessarily tell Booker, and Vic Joseph just like made the announcement. Booker's all like, ah, man, like, thank you for that. I think it could be really funny if Kiana Carver beats the shit out of Booker T on that episode based off of what's happening. So maybe that was just the plan.
It'd be funny if someone comes out to give him an award for best commentator.
Yeah. Maeve Deltzer comes out and does that. But I mean, next week's got a big lineup, and like it's being treated like it is, a special episode in that front. Like we've got Fallon Henley against Ren Sinclair. Ren Sinclair beat Thea Hale to win that number one contender spot. I think that they're going to turn Thea Hale heel, which I think is a mistake, but we'll wait on that, see what happens. Mentioned the steel cage match, Tatum Paxley and Izzy Dame. So I'm fully expecting Tatum Paxley retains there. It seems weird to hot potato that like that. Hang tag against Birthright. We don't know who the two members of Birthright are going to be for that number one contender spot, but that also depends on what happens with the culling and Eli Knight and Super Sean Legacy. Vanity Projects up against the Los Americanos, just 6-man tag. And then we got that triple threat, JC Jane, Sol Ruka, and Zarya. And I'm, at this point, unless something happens that switches up the dynamic of that show at the beginning of it, like, Sol Ruka gets attacked by Zarya and she's not in the match or whatever, I think they are just sort of moving on, and it'll just be Sol Ruka and Zarya are at Stand and Deliver in a gimmick match, and that's Sol Ruka's last match in NXT. And then JC probably loses the belt to Lola, and then Lola is their focal point going forward for a little bit. Maybe she loses it to Zarya. Maybe she's feuding with Blake Monroe and Jada Parker and the other people that are kind of hovering around that title scene, and Sol Ruka just comes up. Speaking of Stand and Deliver, though, it's going to be on YouTube. And not to say I told you so, but like I've been saying at the beginning of the year, or even towards the end of last year, I was just like, it's really weird that they're not announcing any of these premium live events for NXT. And we got basically the confirmation of what I had said I was suspicious about, which was just that their Peacock deal expires on, I believe it's April 4th, the day of the Stand and Deliver show. So they probably were saying, let's try to negotiate. And then Peacock either didn't bring enough to the table, or WWE isn't interested in Peacock and nobody else is able to pick it up. And now that they had announced the show and everything, that's just going to be on YouTube. And I'm very curious what the metrics are when it comes to the YouTube side of things. Like, there's different deals, there's different stuff that happens behind the scenes. And if you've ever tried to like reach out to Google and, you know, you're a lower content creator in comparison to these big, you know, the millions of subscribers types, there is no support. But when you get popular enough, you get support. You get people doing things. You have specials. You get extra, you know, boosting power for your metrics, and like everything is, yeah, it's a different game. There's different tiers, the way that the world works, you know, it's terrible. But I'm very curious if they get like paid by YouTube, or if it's just, hey, let's see what your AdSense brings in. But they're going to be on YouTube for this, and with no real announcement of what's happening after that, that could mean that NXT is just going to be a YouTube thing going forward too. And that's great for a lot of people, because shit, now NXT pay-per-views are free. Hell yeah.
I mean, yeah, they've announced it's going to be on YouTube. They haven't announced. They announced that it's not going to be behind a paywall on YouTube? Because obviously a lot of wrestling companies do put wrestling pay-per-views on YouTube, but as a premium service, or as a, you know, as a, you have to be a paid member of the channel to access the video.
I haven't seen anything that outright says it will be free on YouTube, but they've, as far as I'm aware, they haven't ever put anything on YouTube that was behind the paywall. No, so just by like proxy of like, you know, more than likely it's probably just free, like the way that AAA is.
It's probably the likelihood is, but obviously they haven't ever put NXT onto, or like a major pay-per-view just available on YouTube for it. So I don't know, it will be, but there's always a possibility when it's something that's completely new and they don't have any means of making it monetizable otherwise. So yeah, I mean, I'm interested to see how many people watch it, and whether the fact that it is make it free and available on YouTube actually has like a significant viewership uptake, or how many people actually watch it. Because I guess this is arguably like one of the clearest indications of how many people are actually watching NXT, or like hanging real like good focus on it. Because obviously you have TV ratings and stuff like that ilk, but this is freely available to anybody. Like, you don't have to even have a subscription to, I don't even know if you need a subscription to the CW. I don't know if that's freely available, because obviously I'm not in the US, so I don't know how the channels work necessarily. But yeah, if it's freely available on YouTube, then surely there should be, well, anybody that watches NXT TV, there's no excuse for them to not watch this.
Yeah, like
unless obviously if they're busy on that night, they have an excuse for that reason. Yeah. But besides that,
yeah, if you are a group that's, you know, watching things on CW, for instance, you pay through your cable, and I don't know if CW has any kind of like subscription option where if you didn't have cable that it would be like a Sling thing, or, you know, whatever. That there's too many, like, you know, if you pay for YouTube TV, does that count for this, and channels and whatever? It's impossible for anybody to track that. I personally watch it through the god awful fucking Pix 11 station that's in New York, which I God knows how many times I've tweeted at them and been like, get your shit together, because it's terrible. They for a thing called Pix, they pixelate every single episode. Terrible quality. But if you're at least on that, or you're paying for that or whatever, you shouldn't really have an excuse not to watch that the way that you would with the Peacock thing. And that's a little warning for everybody ahead of time too, that if you have the same setup as what I had, my Peacock subscription was going to renew on April 4th specifically. So I made sure that I went ahead, canceled that. Like, I'm not paying for you for an extra month for nothing. And we'll come back around with the Saturday night's main event. Maybe not. I don't know. I might just Netflix that. You know, because remember, Netflix is also an option when you got the international side of things too. So I like the idea about it being on YouTube in a lot of different ways. One of them being that it's free. One of them being that it could be more exposure. But honestly, I have way better luck with YouTube too. My feed doesn't crap out the way that it does with a lot of these other things, and the YouTube feed is always quicker than everything else. When I start something up on ESPN and it's the pre-show, it's a good 15 to 30 seconds behind on my TV than it is on the YouTube pre-show, whenever that's airing and stuff. So it's a win-win all around, except for probably WWE wishes that they were behind some kind of paywall and getting some X amount of $1 million for taking advantage of some streaming service that doesn't realize that they're paying too much for it. And I don't know, maybe it's a chance for everything to kind of reset a little bit. But I like that. And we'll talk about coverage and all that stuff when we get around to Stand and Deliver, but we got some other things in the meantime, like Roadblock and everything. So keep paying attention to the next couple weeks of NXT, because it's probably going to be some interesting stuff going on. And that also includes stuff that's happening with Evolve. And I did not anticipate having this many Evolve stories for this week, but this week's episode of Evolve kind of had a lot going on for it. The beginning of the episode was Robert Stone acknowledging that they don't have a general manager, and they haven't for a little while now. Stevie Turner was the quote-unquote prime minister of Evolve, and they are now switching it up a little bit, and Timothy Thatcher is going to be the general manager. But he then immediately changed the term, and instead of being the general manager or being the prime minister, he is going to be the foreman of Evolve. And he's wearing basically like the type of outfit that you can see when people are like, I got to wear something that's quote unquote nice. So I went to Walmart and I got those gray like work outfit things and my boot like sneakers and my button down thing and all, which I was like, all right, this is like slightly different. He's kind of the sheriff or whatever. And they instituted this thing that they then switched up. Very quickly, Luca Crusifino is back, and he has completely ditched the Tony D'Angelo family gimmick. He's now like a rave guy, kind of. I'm not feeling it, but yeah, it's all about vibes, and maybe you're feeling the vibes. But they have a thing going on now, which I don't know if they're going to continue this or if this was a one-time thing, but I really like it. And I hope that they continue. Thatcher had said, since Kendal Gray is an NXT star and Jackson Drake is also a full-time NXT star, it really doesn't serve much of a purpose for them to be in Evolve anymore. But they're holding the Evolve championships. So they're calling it the Final Evolution. And it's basically like a graduation thing where Kendal Gray successfully retained the title in one more match against Tyra May Steele. Tyra May Steele, mind you, who won the NXT contract from winning LFG season 1. So you win an NXT contract and she pops up on NXT for like 2 weeks, and then they say, well, we're going to send you to Evolve. And then Shiloh Hill, meanwhile, is on there, and yeah, he's part of the roster. And also goes to show you where they kind of balance those things out. Kendal Gray retaining over Tyra May Steele means that she then vacated the title. And next week, Jackson Drake is going to go up against Aaron O'Rourke. And if he beats Aaron O'Rourke, he vacates the title as well. I like it. If they are in a spot where it's time to vacate the championship, you do this Final Evolution thing. You're like, well, you've now been requested to be a part of the NXT roster, but before you graduate, one more title defense, you either lose it and a new champion is crowned, and moving forward, that person's the new standard bearer, or you retire the belt in your title reign with your head held high. Perfect.
Yeah, I think that's a good way of approaching it. I think it's a good move to have Kendal retire the title rather than lose it, because from what I've seen of her, she has a lot of potential, and I think that she would be she could be a big star for the company if they push her correctly, and obviously she improves promo wise. But yeah, I think it made more sense for her to be one that doesn't lose the title on the way out. But the overall concept is a good one. Because, as you say, there's no point of them dividing their time and being top of Evolve when they're going to be more prominently featured on NXT for a while moving forward. It just doesn't seem to be. They've served their purpose in being involved.
And somebody like Callie Armstrong, she was the first women's champion, but she hasn't been called up to NXT. So she's still in the mix for it. And then wherever they want to go, they haven't said what they do after vacating the championship, but naturally they do have to crown a new champion. So I'm assuming next week there will be some sort of an announcement of like either, a number one contenders match or like a qualifying 4-way or a battle royal or whatever they do to like set who's the next Evolve Women's Champion. But it could be PJ Vasa, it could be Tyra May Steele, it could be Wendy Chu, Chantel Monroe. Like there's any number of different people that they could go on. And I assume Jackson Drake is going to retain next week against Aaron Rourke, but he could very well lose the belt. And then my prediction is that Drake retains and then Harlem Lewis is the next champion, but any number of different methods they could go. Interesting. Evolve is like, I wouldn't say for somebody that's on the fence about watching wrestling to watch Evolve by any means. And if somebody's already overloaded, I wouldn't say you got to go out of your way to watch Evolve. But for a show that's very low stakes and is, very, very clearly like not even on the same page as NXT is, it's a huge step up from NXT Level Up, like night and day. So credit to them for doing something a little bit different than that. Which probably means that it'll probably, not exist in a year. All things considered.
that seems inevitably likely, yeah. So I don't know if we spoke about. We probably did speak about this last week because it's one of those segments where I would just like gloss over and just be paying attention to other things while you and Rob are talking. But they confirmed the cast for like season 3 of LFG.
Oh, did they? I didn't see that they had put that out there.
Oh, so yeah, that came out on. I saw a news story for it on like March the 5th, and it's clear they've changed the format for it because people like Nikita Lyons and Callie Armstrong and Kendall Gray,
really,
and Elio LaFleur, and obviously there's still some people that I've never heard of on the list, but quite a lot of people that are either been in NXT or even like are champions in either NXT or Evolve are going to be on this show. So they've clearly decided to switch up the concept to now it just feels like a competition between the four coaches, which of course has also been changed because it's now Michelle McCool and The Undertaker have been replaced by Kevin Owens and Natalya. So yeah, it just feels like now this feels like the voice for pro wrestling rather than like anything like and as I say like and the same way that the voice does, like the person wins and then you never hear or see from them again, or they don't actually win, or they win something and it never comes to fruition. So
those reality show things are always interesting because it's like I could name you at the peak of when American Idol was super popular. Like Kelly Clarkson wins and Justin something or other, I forget. Like
he sounds pretty popular now. What's he doing now?
Like Gardoni or something, I think was his name. He's
never out of the charts, that guy.
Yeah, like they did like a movie to try to capitalize on them, and it was like fucking terrible type of thing. But and then they just disappear. And I remember the name Clay Aiken being a name of like one of the guys that either like won or was like a runner up or something. And like I don't remember a single thing that any of these people have done. And that typically could be the case. So all right, so I'm looking at the list now. Third season women: Nikita Lyons, PJ Vasa, Layla Diggs, Bailey Humphrey, Callie Armstrong, Xena Sterling, Chantel Monroe, Serena Linton, Mason Holiday, Kendall Gray, and Carly Bright. Wow, yeah, that's really fucking. And who are the men that are on this list?
So they didn't have it on the article for some reason, but it is Drake Moreau, Tate Wilder, Pam Hendricks, Elio LaFleur, Trill London. Let me get the rest of them. Harlan Lewis, Harley Riggins, Tristan Angels, Dorian Van Dux, will do, I don't know how to pronounce it, Jack Presley, Keanu Carver, Elijah Holyfield, Shady El Nahas, Chris Island, Jaime Garcia, and Braxton Cole.
Wow, so that's, for context of anybody that doesn't watch Evolve, Nikita Lyons is an NXT wrestler who has been showing up more in Evolve. Credit where credit's due. Nikita Lyons, she had struggled for a long time, and she seems like she's in better shape now, so that's a good sign. PJ Vasa is on Evolve as, like, she won, like, she didn't win the season. I don't remember. No, she didn't win the season. That was Danny Skalski. Danny Skalski is supposed to be on NXT, and she's like not popped up like more than once. PJ Vasa has been like, you know, the winner by proxy of like just going straight to Evolve and all. Layla Diggs is on Evolve. Bailey Humphrey was on the first 2 seasons, and she has not been on Evolve. Kelly Armstrong is a former Evolve Women's Champion. Zena Sterling's on Evolve. Chantel Moreau's on Evolve. Serena Linton hasn't been seen outside of LFG. Mason Holliday's on Evolve. Kendall Grace she just dropped the Evolve Women's title to go to NXT. So, you know, and to go back to NXT because she was part of that before. And so was Carly Bright. So, the group of like Harlem Lewis and Elijah Holyfield and all, these are guys that have been a part of LFG before, and some of them like Shady are new, but like Chris Island, that'll be on the 3rd season of this, and Jaime Garcia, I don't know, Braxton Cole's a part of Evolve. That gives me the unfortunate vibe of they've given up. Evolve is done, and this could very well be the last season of this. It depends on how long their contract was set up for, however many seasons. In the way that like main event and Superstars start off, and it's like, wow, you got The Undertaker on the first episode of Superstars. It's very clearly going downhill after that. And even though you've got bigger names now in this by proxy of being a part of Evolve and all that, it lost its purpose, because the whole point of LFG was supposed to be, these are the really unknown people. And if they're lucky, they'll go to Evolve. These people are just on Evolve and everything. So, yeah, it seems like it's a fake competition to be something else to remind you that there's this subdivision of NXT. I'll still watch it. I'll probably enjoy parts of it. I don't know, but that's crazy. I didn't see that they had put out those names. And Undertaker and Michelle McCool not involved at all.
He's too busy booking AAA. So.
Could be that. Maybe the backlash to Michelle McCool was like a little too much too.
Yeah, or he's like he's just hovering around waiting for the next Hall of Fame announcement. Yeah. So he can't. So you have to be ready to come out and make the call for that. But
you hear me coming, you're going.
To me, this gives the indication that like season 2 failed from their metric standpoint completely, and like the novelty of having the coaches and a bunch of like no names that you've never really heard of before just competing, or the fact that just Evolve is now at the point where you don't need an LFG, you just use Evolve to build these people up. So yeah, it's either a case that they have given up, or they're trying. Okay, that season 2 didn't go very well, or like didn't perform as we expected, so let's put people that are actually somewhat names from NXT and Evolve into this, and then maybe that will attract some more attention, rather than just putting people that nobody's heard of.
Yeah.
Especially if you're losing The Undertaker as a coach as well.
Yeah, I mean, that's a draw in and of itself. Some people would watch the show just to see Undertaker, and Kevin Owens, Natty, and other people, they got their draw too, but yeah, it's The Undertaker. It's one of the most popular stars that they've literally ever had in the entire history of the company. So it's hard to compare in some ways. I'll see. I'll do my coverage and talk about that once we get to whenever that season premieres. I'm assuming it's got to be not that far off. It's April 26th. Okay, so I'll talk more about that in the future. Let's pivot over to the AEW side of things. Kind of round things out, actually, for the list of topics for this week. Here's an international thing as far as we were talking about YouTube and the Netflix side of things and Stand and Deliver and all that. Now there's an international subscription service called MyAEW. And I am still a little bit confused about what some of this is. So I don't know if you've seen any kind of differences about it. Maybe you've gotten more information because you have signed up for it. You signed up for the full year package, right?
Yes.
So this is outside of the United States and Canada. Even though it's international, Canada doesn't count. And this is seemingly a means to draw in more people that, I guess, like the hurdle of, like, you know, signing up for different subscription services. It's all like one package or whatever. There's probably way better, you know, explanations for this, but MyAEW is a hub for people to watch the TV shows and to watch the pay-per-views and to have like a backlog of content. The thing I'm the most confused about, I don't see any clarification, or maybe, you know, there's a media call, so maybe he clarified some of this or whatever. Do you get the pay-per-view live?
Yes.
Okay, so it's not just the way that they had put out the graphic. I was thinking it's very like, you got to look at the fine print on a lot of these things, and it had listed under the Dynamite and Collision in parentheses live, Ring of Honor, Honor Club TV live. So that's the just regular TV episodes. Ring of Honor pay-per-view live if during month. But then it would say one AEW pay-per-view airing during current month, and then an asterisk that said included in subscription, available in library 90 days after original broadcast. And then that also was the same thing as all 2026 AEW pay-per-views. So I was like, you know, I never trust these companies. They always nickel and dime you. They always, well, you know, we said that we would give you 25% off of the purchase of your phone, but it's really only if you sign up for this service too, and that doesn't constitute for that. And, you know, they kind of do that kind of BS. So I was like, well, if it's $20 a month and you get whatever the pay-per-view is, and you can watch the TV shows and the podcasts and whatever else it is that's like AEW archive material, that's a hell of a deal. It's not $9.99, but it's, you know, in this current economy and the way that everybody's gouging prices and being absolutely ridiculous, $20 a month and getting the pay-per-view, hell of a deal for you to be able to do that. And if you're also thinking about cutting the cable cord and you still want to watch AEW Dynamite and Collision, now that's rolled into that. That's fucking fantastic. So, like, for somebody on your end, I'm like, yeah, I'm not at all surprised he would have immediately jumped on the 1 year thing for that.
Yeah, I think that this is primarily a means to get away from Triller. Because the only way, well, I say the only way, in the UK, AEW is available on terrestrial television, so essentially free-to-air TV, but it's not available live on free TV. It's available like a few days afterwards on ITV, I believe they put it on. But it's something that's, you know, it is freely available. But if you want to watch it live, you have to go through a subscription service through Triller. Well, that's how I did it anyway. I'm sure there were other ones available. But that was the route that I went down. Now, this is essentially AEW's equivalent of the WWE Network. And I understand why it's available internationally and it's not available in the US. The reason why it's not available in the US is because the US has TV deals.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that's not going to fly to them if they say, like, oh, now you can just sign up and watch everything here instead. It's like, maybe they'll come up with some version of it where you just have available to archive stuff in the US instead of this approach. Of course, not encouraging this. Well, I guess I can encourage this. I don't know how illegal it is to say or not, but you can always get a VPN and access it that way instead. But yeah, I think this is fantastic. I've always said, like, one thing about WWE Network, and like two things can exist in the same breath. The WWE Network was an excellent tool for wrestling fans, not just of WWE, but of other companies that WWE swallowed up, to check out archive stuff and have easy access to any show you wanted to watch. It was also a massive financial failure, and it bombed completely, and that's the reason why they gave up on it. But this feels like, I don't know. I don't know whether it will end up being a big financial bomb. At the end of the day, I didn't care as a fan that the network was the WWE network was a big financial bomb. I enjoyed it for what it was, and
Right,
I hate the fact that it's gone. Not that I'm watching a lot of WWE, but like I did not enjoy a lot of WWE old stuff. Of course, I was a big fan for several years. So I would like to go back and be able to watch that stuff more readily available. Now I'd have to do it through Netflix. I don't even have a Netflix subscription anymore because I just don't.
That price keeps going up too. It's
and there's not enough stuff on it to make me want to watch. Whereas this, I obviously do watch. AEW is my main wrestling company that I watch, and now I get all this stuff for the time being. So what they've made available is, so you've got all upcoming episodes of Ring of Honor Club, which is also brilliant as well, because that means I don't need a Ring of Honor subscription anymore. So now I'm down 2 subscriptions in terms of my Ring of Honor Club thing, and also the Triller thing. I can bin both of those. I don't have to pay for pay-per-view separately anymore.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
so you're saving a lot of money.
Oh, absolutely. Like, this is, let's say I paid about 100 and, like, I think it was about 110, 120 pounds up front, which obviously it's a big initial investment, but then that's probably the same as, like, Amazon Prime cost me a year.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, yeah, then I have access to all of this stuff. At the moment, they've put in all of the, so you got collisions for all of 2025 and all Dynamites of 2025 on there. They haven't yet put a they have put in some like Honor Club, Ring of Honor shows from the past period of time as well. I think that probably is going back to 2025 now. I'm just having a look to see how far back it goes back to. So the shows only go back to the Boxing Day Brawl, but then you have some pay-per-views like this got like Supercard of Honor 2024, Death Fortress Honor 2024, so they put pay-per-views on there. I think they're still, because like even since I signed up for it earlier this week, they've added more stuff to it, so I think it's just a gradual process of making stuff available. I think what they'll do with the pay-per-views, because even though to watch them live, they're going to only be in people's libraries for 90 days post it happening. And the only pay-per-views that are available to watch currently are all the Revolution pay-per-views and all the Dynasty pay-per-views, because that's the current pay-per-view that's coming out and the next pay-per-view that's coming. So I believe that's how they're going to approach it, is that they're going to just release all the available pay-per-views for the next pay-per-view until then. And then when next year's Revolution comes around, that's when Revolution 2026 will return to the archive. So it gives you an incentive to watch the show and watch it as much as you can until it goes away, and then when it comes back, it's like, oh, good, it's back. I can watch it again now. So yeah, I think it seems to be just an excellent idea for non-American and Canadian fans of AEW, and I encourage it. If you watch a lot of AEW already, or you use a Triller subscription and you're part of Honor Club, like you're one of the 10 people that have an Honor Club subscription, then I would definitely encourage you to sign up for it, because as I say, I've only watched a little bit. I think I watched the first. I didn't watch the first episode of Dynamite that went on there live, because obviously I don't watch Dynamite live because of the time difference. But the quality of it when I was watching it from the archive version was very good. They have a live AEW, like Watch AEW TV channel on there, which is just showing. At the moment, it's
just like rolling content.
Yeah, at the moment it's season 2, episode 19 of All Elite Wrestling, which was, what does it say on there? Got on here. AEW Tag Team Champions Kenny Omega and Hangman Page defend their belts against SCU. Nyla Rose challenges for the AEW Women's Championship against Riho. Number contender Jon Moxley battles the Inner Circle Santana in an eye for an eye match. So yeah, this is around about I'm guessing like March, February time, because it's before the first Revolution show. So,
and they'll roll out that content and they'll switch that up, but it's definitely a bad thing for Triller. I saw this thing reported by F4W about Triller saying that AEW subscriptions for the AEW Plus or pay-per-views or whatever in 2023 accounted for around 19% of their revenue. 2024, 24%.
Yeah.
And I would assume it might even be higher for 2025. So
potentially, I mean,
this could kill Triller for sure.
well, from what I've seen, and like, it's not saying it's like regularly spoken about reports stuff like that, but when I have seen those of it, like Triller has been dying anyway. Like there was like rumors going around that Tony Khan was going to buy Triller, and kind of, or like somebody else was going to come in to buy Triller because they were in, like, financial freefall anyway. And yeah, this will probably kill Triller, which isn't good because a lot of other promotions put their pay-per-views out through there. But at the end of the day, AEW takes up the vast majority of it because AEW is the most watched outside WWE wrestling promotion. So of course, if their pay-per-view is going to come through there, then that's obviously going to take up a huge amount of their business. So I don't think they'll be able to survive now that AEW goes away. It depends on how many people are signed up for this, because I don't see any reason why you wouldn't sign up for it if you get all your stuff through Triller anyway. You're going to make massive financial savings. But then again, there's still a weird percentage of people that buy WWE pay-per-views through pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's
buy AEW shows through pay-per-view, and it's like, what the fuck are you doing? It's like, there's other routes of doing this stuff. I mean, AEW had to buy pay-per-views anyway through Triller anyway, but or any other means, like they had put it on Amazon Prime. That would be interesting about what this means for like the their deal with Amazon Prime and stuff like that, where they had the shows available through there as well. Like, I think essentially
you're right though. I mean, like, there's people that, like, even after the network was, a decade ago plus, and with Peacock and with ESPN and stuff, there were still people that are like, I want to call up Comcast and be like, how do I buy the pay-per-view the way that I did in 1994? And some people are going to be out there and they're going to be like, yeah, I like Triller's service better. And then again, it's like, you could buy through payperview.com, or you could buy through YouTube, or you could buy through this and Prime and Max. And when there's 10 different means for you to buy something, the good thing for it is that if you have a preference, like if you are an HBO Max person and you like that streaming service and whatever, you can at least temporarily still, before that goes under, do it through there. Or if you're an Amazon Prime person, you'd rather do it through there. I find myself in all of these scenarios being like, pretty much all of these suck. And the way that you get the least amount of commercials and the least amount of headaches and the best quality picture and all that for the cheapest price is the best way to do it, no matter what it is. But yeah, there's some people that would rather, let's say, like even the YouTube thing. Some people would rather NXT, instead of being on YouTube for free, they'd rather it be on Tubi for free, or they'd rather even pay for it to be on Netflix, which to me, it's kind of baffling. But Triller is like, they're not just AEW, but for them to be somewhere in the mix of 20 to higher percent, depending on AEW, doesn't seem like it's particularly a good thing for them. And,
no, that is a business ending, like, level of revenue being lost. Like, you can't, again, it's one of those things where you can't, most businesses wouldn't attach themselves to one company taking up so much of their revenue, or if they do, it's obviously a dangerous precedent set, because if they decide to go away, then you're screwed. And as I say, it's not their choice, because they wanted to, AEW needed a source to do it, and they used Triller for as long as they wanted to, and now they've decided they're in a position now where they can take everything in-house and do it themselves. And yeah, I'd say I'd be interested to see. I don't know if they'll report, or reports will come out about how many people have subscribed to it since its launch. But yeah, I'd say it'll be interesting to see the numbers come out, if they do ever come out, because I presume they're under no incentive or requirement to do so, because it's a privately run company and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah. But as I'm looking forward to more content being added into it. And once they make all of the old AEW episodes available for just just watch at any point in time. I might go back and watch some of the old episodes and see how drastically things have changed in the years since then. Go back and watch some old like Rampage and stuff like that. Then go back to watch like the second ever Rampage when CM Punk made his debut.
Mm-hmm.
Watch that, try and experience that for the second time, and knowing how it will all end up. But
different in hindsight, right?
Yeah, all that hindsight stuff, and just watch it and just go like, oh, this was great in this moment in time, and it realistically is all downhill from here. Well, especially, to be fair, it's all downhill from the MJF feud. After that, it's all downhill. But yeah, I say this is a great thing for me and a great thing for fans of AEW across international waters. I think. I don't think I haven't seen anybody say anything really negative about this, or at least not in good faith say anything negative about this.
Yeah, I haven't seen any criticism. It's only ever been, maybe in the sense of, it's a shame that might kill Triller and that they would be upset about that. And everything else is just like, yeah, but this seems like a pretty good deal. It's, consumer, the whole point is give them something that they want and then they'll pay for it. If it's, it's going to be worth it, then it's worth it. That's just business. And this seems like a good idea. This seems like if I were living outside of the United States or whatever, like, yeah, that makes perfect sense to go in this. And if you are in that international market, then if you are an AEW fan, consider taking part of that and, signing up. But let's move on to some other AEW topics that we got going on here. One of them being the, Dynamite results just as they are, but Death Riders, Jon Moxley, Claudio Castagnoli beat Konosuke Takeshita and Hechicero and get attacked by Mark Davis and Lance Archer afterward, but they're continuing to tell a story that Takeshita is not necessarily part of the Don Callis family's evil methods. So we're heading, still steadily towards that eventual break off from that and babyface turn and all, which makes sense. I was a little bit surprised that Claudio got the win here, of all things.
Well, I guess like there is a means of trying to protect him because he is the CMLL world champion as well. So I don't necessarily they would want their world champion to be taking too many jobs at this point. Yeah, I mean, it makes sense for him to. I mean, if you wanted to build a title program between him and Hechicero, but I think they might have already had a match between those two for the world title in CMLL, so I don't know if they want to go down that route again. So him getting the victory makes sense. Like, you don't want to have either Moxley or Takeshita. I mean, unless they're winning their match to do it, you don't want, and you don't actually want Takeshita pinning Claudio because that means that he's like in line for a world title, and it's just muddies the waters already with all of these titles involved. Like, yeah, maybe it made more sense for Moxley to beat Hechicero, but I guess he beat Hechicero last week, so give Claudio a victory instead. They're still trying to make Claudio like retain some like big level credibility, so I don't really mind it.
We got the MJF and Kyle Fletcher backstage thing, which is kind of interesting that, they had a little bit of a crossover going on there. They don't have much crossover, but they, teased a little bit as intention and all. Mostly just, hey, beat up Speedball Mike Bailey for me, and Fletcher being like, no, dude, do it yourself. Ass.
Well, no, we said basically that I'll be up Mike Bailey, but I'm doing it because I want to.
Yeah, I'm not taking orders from you.
Yeah, exactly.
And then he retained over Speedball in a very good match.
Dude, like, we're now back to this, something that I've always loved. We're back to this point where there's always one absolute banger match on Dynamite every single week. And fundamentally, it's always Kyle Fletcher. At least like half the time Kyle Fletcher's involved in it. Like, this match was fucking awesome, and the crowd was so into it. I think it's not weird, but like this almost burnt the crowd out for a lot of the rest of the show because it was just so crazy everything they were doing. It's the best. He's had some really good matches, but I think it's the best Mike Bailey match I've seen in AEW. And Kyle Fletcher basically has pretty much everybody's best match in AEW outside of Will Ospreay. And it's like, although Kyle Fletcher versus Will Ospreay is arguably Will Ospreay's best match in AEW as well, so there's that. Um, yeah, awesome match. Carl Fletcher retains. It's that's also how I describe it on Twitter. It's amazing to see a 4.5 star match on TV as a build to what will likely be a 3 or 4 star 6-fan tag team match on the pay-per-view. But you know, I always appreciate them willing to put matches of this caliber on free TV.
Yeah. Brody King squashed someone. I don't even think they ever said their name. And then
it was a it was like an enhanced talent. It was one of those things they're doing more recently of having standby matches.
Yeah.
Which essentially saying like a certain match didn't reach the time limit that they were expecting it to, even though they had the Carl Fletcher and Spiegel Mike Bailey match went to pretty much the time limit. So I guess it's like the idea that the Death Riders and the Don Callis family match ended soon, and so they decided to throw Brody King. But this is all just background noise, so Swerve Strickland could start attacking him with a chain, and then King could fight back afterwards.
He breaks his chain, so now I'm like, all right, I think that's where it's winning on the pay-per-view.
I think that's. I still think there's going to be. I'm still leaning towards like a no contest type finish.
Could very well happen, especially since there's not some like no time limit thing or something. Could be like they both brawl and double count out, or something like that.
Like you broke a chain in it, and it's a case of this feels like a feud that has to go to some kind of plunder match at some stage. And if it's chain, it should be some kind of chain related match where either a dog collar or just they're tied together by chain. Chain. Well, chain match, but I don't know if they've ever done something, but the equivalent of a strap match, but with a chain instead. But so I feel like just having a singles match on the pay per view just doesn't fit the vibe of the feud. But that's why I think that it will end up being some kind of smoz finish, or at least like a controversial one, which leads to an inevitable rematch for Dynasty.
Fully agreed. Dogs beat Darby Allin and Orange Cassidy, and then Roderick Strong came out to help fight them off and join against the Dogs, who now we got a new match added to Revolution, which is, as much as it could seem obvious, the Dogs against Darby Allin, Orange Cassidy, and Roderick Strong. That that could go either way, but I'm assuming the Dogs win.
Potentially. I mean, the Dogs have gotten a lot of victories over Cassidy and Darby Allin in recent memory, so they might decide to use the fact that Strong came back and helped fight them off as a means of, he'll get the victory, and so try and even it out a little bit. But I think the Dogs probably will win, but it's not the most high stakes match, so it could go either way from that front. I think it was quite nice that to see Roderick Strong come back and be on the babyface side. I know they obviously very much telegraphed it by the way that he came out and dealt with things, but it was good to see him reunite with Orange Cassidy despite their strained friendship. And the best thing about it was Roderick Strong using Orange Cassidy as a weapon, essentially, to beat them up with, for going on his own flurry, just like threw Orange Cassidy into one of them to get the advantage. So maybe they're not the best of friends, but he's clearly decided that this is the side that he wants to be on. So that's good.
And of course, that's it's going to take any kind of routes that they want to go in, any kind of other different directions and all. If they want to add some new people to the mix, or conglomerate somewhere in a different way.
Well, yeah, I mean, I want Kyle O'Reilly to come back. Obviously at some point soon, but I don't know what the extent of his injuries are.
Yeah.
But yeah, it'll be good to see him back into the mix as well. But it's good for the Dogs as well. They're already building up a good reputation. I know you probably want to watch their match on Collision against the free enhancement talent, but it was the absolute right tone that an enhancement match should have, which is it's not a case of just beating them quickly. It's about just enjoying beating the fuck out of people
and
just
tagging in so everybody gets a chance to beat somebody up.
Yeah, it was an extended squash, that type of thing where everyone is hitting moves on each other, and at no point they're under any kind of stress or in any sort of difficulty, but they're just extending the beatdown just because they want to exemplify that they are much more powerful, they're much more higher level than the people they're fighting with. So my favorite type of squash, rather than just someone losing in a minute and not really doing much in the process.
Speaking of enhancement talent, Big Boom AJ and QT Marshall are up against the infantry.
Well, yeah. Well, now we know that AJ's gonna keep his undefeated record. Then, because I forgot that he had formed a tag team with QT Marshall in the wake of like their own feud and other stuff going on. But yeah, let's say it's just a means of like the crowds. A lot of the crowd seem to like AJ and that whole group. He's not there very often. He only ever appears on these like 0-hour cards. As I say, it's not for everyone. I'm not gonna say that I mean, I'm kind of indifferent to it. Like, it's fine for the moment, and the crowd gets into it. And when the crowd gets into it, I'm usually okay to go along for the ride. But as long as it always stays at this level and it never goes any further than this level, then I'm kind of okay with it.
We know one more person that's in the Battle Royal, Tommaso Ciampa. Still don't know.
Which means Bob Briscoe's in the Battle Royal.
You would assume so.
Yeah.
And 2 more matches that have been added to the card as well. We have a 13 match card now, which that tracks. That's typical Tony Khan. I said it's like 12 to 14. So
that's about right. Yeah.
Willow Nightingale's going to do double duty as well as Lena Cross, because Willow and Lena are going to be fighting for the TBS title on the 0 Hour, and then later on the Women's World Tag Team titles are on the line. Babes of Wrath against Mega Bad. So Megan Bean and Lena Cross, I'm assuming, are winning those belts after Willow retains the TBS title on the 0 Hour.
Yes, I very much believe that's the case. I also believe that this is going to be the kind of typical situation where it's the main event of 0 Hour is going to be Willow Nightingale defending it against Lena Cross, and then Megan Bain and Penelope Ford are going to come out to try and beat up Willow Nightingale. Harley Cameron's going to run down, and they're going to immediately, like, they're going to do the graphics for AEW Revolution, have the pyro going off, and it's immediately into that tag team match.
I could see that happening. Yep.
Because Tony Khan definitely has a hold on for that approach as well. Yeah. He's done it so many times already. But
and then that way it's like they just had the match, so they don't need to do their entrances again and waste any more time. The total opposite of what WWE would do, because WWE would be like, let's put that on second, and then let's have it like third to last, and then we could do the entrance again, and we can show a recap footage of everything that happened in a commercial for some kind of BS. I don't know, Snickers or something.
Well, they had Willow defended the title against Persephone on this show, who's the new CMLL Women's World Champion after defeating Mercedes on last Friday. And the same thing. It was like a perfectly fine match. I don't think it was anything particularly special, but Persephone has a lot of charisma about her. I think Persephone will work out pretty well. Is a good get for AEW to have their grips into, because they missed out obviously on Stephanie Vacare, who went to WWE, but Persephone has... I think Stephanie's the better wrestler, but I think Persephone has obviously the advantage that she's young and still learning. She's obviously got a bigger size advantage as well, so she looks very physically intimidating. But her biggest benefit is she speaks fluent English. So, like, that is... It's good to get over the language barrier. I don't think it should ever be an issue in the modern age, but it clearly is. So... in that sense that she won't have as much of a struggle as Stephanie does to try and get her point across. But just as another interesting bit of news as well. So Mercedes is defending two of her 7 remaining championships against Alexis Falcon at the next Rev Pro show. So that's 2 titles she's probably going to lose as well.
Slowly but surely whittling them down, yeah.
Yeah. So this one, she's losing a title that is represented by Scotland and one that's represented by Denmark. So that will leave her with her Austrian championship, her Polish championship, her Canadian championship, and her Malaysian championship, alongside the Owen Hart one, which will go away as soon as the next Owen Hart tournament starts, unless she wins it again, obviously.
Still quite a bit left to go.
Yep.
So we got the Willow stuff we talked about, and then we got this press conference. Last thing for us to talk about here. So
we had Ciampa and FTR beat Briscoe, Matt Jackson, Nick Jackson. So, but again, that just set more prelude for the tag title match, and Ciampa and Briscoe almost certainly being in the or Ciampa is, but Briscoe certainly will be in the Battle Royal as well.
Yeah. So this press conference, MJF and Hangman Adam Page are talking about stuff, and the crowd is hating it. And I don't blame them, because you've just had all this action and then you end the night with people talking and they're not even talking in the ring, which I've gone to one taping of Monday Night Raw. Yeah, at this point it was like, okay, I got to make sure I go to a Royal Rumble. I got to make sure I go to a WrestleMania. Got to make sure I go to like a TV taping, whatever. Raw, of course, different than the way that Dynamite is on a regular basis. There tends to be more action on episodes of Dynamite than there are on Raw and SmackDown and all. But I found myself with that episode of Raw, and that was the last Raw appearance of Undertaker for like WrestleMania at that point, and like, it was the go home show for WrestleMania for that year, and so on and so forth. It's boring to be on a TV taping where most of the time you're sitting around waiting for them to come back from commercial break and stuff. And I don't blame them for being like, okay, we don't want to have paid to watch people talking on our screen. We want them out in the ring to do this. We want them to, do whatever. And credit to a certain extent, when they started to brawl afterward, they brawl into the crowd and then people are more into it and all. And I think that was their game plan was, well, if they're upset about that, we'll make up for it by having this fight afterward. But I don't think that it necessarily was good enough to be able to justify it all the way. And I don't know. I think it's a mistake.
No, I thought this was a bad segment. I think that the questions asked were stupid. I think that the tone in which the people asked it was also incredibly stupid. It just felt completely devoid of the intensity and the actual personal animosity that's built between these two over the years, and particularly in the build up to this match, especially with so much that Hangman's got on the line going into it. It just let a lot of air out of the room. I thought it was absolutely the wrong approach to take to be the final closing segment. And it's an issue that AEW, I don't think it has all the time, but it does have a reputation for its go-home shows being a bit flat. Well, not go-home show. Yeah, well, the go-home show is being a bit, flat. I mean, I know they have a collision before that as well, but it's not the same as like the final Dynamite before a pay-per-view. Just being not helping build as much anticipation for the show. I mean, people are still going to watch the show because they're excited for the match, and I think they did a good job with this feud. I know everyone is obviously, there's a lot of opinions going around about obviously the stipulation and Hangman's choice to put his ability to challenge for the title in the future up for stake. So I don't, as I say, we'll always have a difference of opinion, or we'll always think one way about it until they prove us right or wrong, one way or the other. But I thought that the story they told overall was still pretty good leading into this, and this was just a very damp squib way of ending it. It should have been in the ring. It shouldn't have been a press conference type thing. You should just have these two have one final either promo segment against each other, and then lead into, Hangman bringing out that barbed wire board to indicate what sort of stuff will happen in the Texas Death Match. But I thought this was a really clunky way of doing it. I hope it's one of those things that I think they just wanted to experiment with and will hopefully never do again, because it just didn't work. Or if they ever do it again, it has to be for a feud that's not meant to be as serious and important as their main event, featuring the main character against the main villain of AEW. So
yeah, it's sometimes you try, sometimes you fail, and you got to make sure that you learned a lesson from that, and then hopefully apply that in the future. Then never make that mistake again. But
I mean, there's a reason why WWE doesn't do fucking press conferences anymore.
Right? Yeah, they don't do them because everybody started calling them out on their shit, and then
it's like Triple H decided that he's now done with people just shouting either AEW or you suck or anything at him in any situation. So, I don't
anticipate any press conferences coming forward, like Double or Nothing, for instance, like that.
No, I'd hope so. I'd hope not. Anyway, is that in terms of new stuff, or have we got anything else?
That's all that I got.
I've got a little thing that's just come out, that I've just seen. I don't know if you've watched TNA.
No.
So TNA made a signing. I want you to. I'm going to give you a million guesses. No. It's a former WWE Women's Champion assigned with TNA. I'll give you three guesses. I'll give you three guesses. Don't look it up.
I'm not going to. I'll preserve the sanctity of the game.
Yeah.
Former WWE Women's Champion signed with TNA. Who would be available to? I mean, did Mickey sign a new contract?
Well, she might be signed. I don't know if she is signed, but it's not her that I'm
thinking of. Okay.
We know of her anyway, doing stuff with TNA at the moment anyway. So
it wouldn't be Maurice, Melina?
Nope.
All right. So third guess.
And I'll let you have two more because Nikki one is kind of like we don't know if she's signed or not. So
I don't think that they would be able to. Well, I don't think she would be interested for Eve Torres. Taryn never won the WWE title, so she wouldn't count. Or I guess I'm looking at old school things, so I should probably look at somebody who's probably been released over the past. They didn't sign Paige, did they?
No, they did not sign Paige.
So then. Everybody else I can think of didn't necessarily win the title unless it's like Alicia Fox is already in there. Okay, yeah. So I don't know. Who would they have signed? Maria? Oh, she didn't win the title. Yeah.
So you're actually quite close with Melina because it's the person that defeated her for her first women's title. It's Candice Michelle.
Oh, she popped up on a TNA thing. One of their most recent.
Yeah, she was on that last pay-per-view that they were on in the crowd with a few other people.
Is she supposed to wrestle, or is she like a backstage thing or something?
I don't know, because literally Viteful put out on a tweet, so I presume it was on the last episode of TNA that it was she was there with some guy who I assume is somebody from an executive TNA and Tommy Dreamer, and then she signs the contract. She doesn't actually they don't say anything about what her role is or anything, but she signed with them, so I don't know. Maybe she takes on the Gail Kim role that she had for a little while, where she's kind of the voice or executive of the women's division or knockouts division, shall I say? So maybe that's what her position is. I very much doubt that she wrestles because I don't think she wrestled for a good number of years.
Yeah,
I know she had I think she had a retirement match against Victoria or Tara or however they decided to book her on that particular show. But that was about 5-6 years ago.
I don't remember the last time that she would have been involved in anything in a wrestling capacity.
Yeah, but I just thought it was quite interesting that just it's a name that's hasn't really been relevant on the wrestling scene since about 2008, 2009. Just coming into TNA. It's literally just need to have WWE on your CV at some point, and you're on you're on TNA's radar.
That's true.
So, who's next? Is it going to be I don't know, Sylvain Grenier coming back or something? I don't know, or Bam Neely. Make his triumphant return.
The new stable: Bam Neely, Eric Escobar, and Hugh Ortiz.
Don't I know you kid, but I know the way that you think about those things. But don't tell me you wouldn't watch their first match.
Oh, I absolutely would. Absolutely would. I would be more invested in that than I would be in I don't know, in Revolution or the NXT Stand Deliver or something. I'd be I gotta see this shit. Well, if you want us to do a deep dive on those three or anything else like that, you drop your comments below and you tell us what you are thinking and everything else like that. Make sure that you show your support for all the Smark Play stuff that I mentioned before, and make sure that you keep checking out everything under A Mango Tree, AnthonyMango.com or AMangoTree.com. You can find all my links there and follow Callum as well.
Yep, you can follow me at Wigmeister14 on both Twitter and Blue Sky. You check out the power rankings every Saturday over on smarkmomo.com, where I rank the WWE superstars based on their previous week's performances. And while you're over there, you can head on over to the Fantasy League, also at WWEFantasyLeague.com, to see how our rosters are performing, who's picking up points as we head towards WrestleMania for the final show of the year. So yeah, just follow all that good stuff there.
And of course, we will see you next time around with the next round of the hot tags next week. But we also have whatever it is that is going to be the main event, which we haven't figured out yet. So if you have any suggestions of what you would like to see us do for the main event for next week's episode, let us know about that too. We'll try to plan something out. Somewhere along the lines, we're going to get another Darkcast in there for March, and then we got another blank week the week after next. So 2 weeks worth of something. And, we'll see you then. But for now, this has been another Smark Out moment, and we're being counted out.